Greetings, LoreSeekers, and welcome back to another episode of the Lost Archives. That's right, more Star Wars Legends lore. And today I'm going to talk about a race I previously mentioned in another video and thought, hey, perhaps I actually need to explain about them a little bit. So this week we are talking about the Kiffars, a near-human species from the twin planets of Kiffar and Kiffx. Now, considering the planet's name, a lot of species in the Star Wars galaxy actually mistake the people to be Kifu instead of Kiffar, also seeming to forget about the second homeworld of the Kiffar. Though this may actually have something to do with their history, because about 3,500 years before the rise of Darth Vader, the homeworlds were annexed by an imperial regime. And then seemingly the numbers of the Kiffar seemed to diminish quite rapidly, seeing as then there was only several clans and various other things that would survive after this. And then there was also various clan feuds that would further degrade their numbers. So when we get to the time of the Old Republic and the start of the Star Wars saga with Episode 1, there is probably only several thousand of them left in existence, one of which being Jedi Master Quilon Vos. Now, Quilon himself will be getting his own video, as I'm going to do that as one of my character breakdowns, as his legend story is similar to his canon story, but better in some ways as well. But anyway, back onto topic. Now, the species, eye, hair and skin colour would come in the same flavours of the rest of humanity, with their average height being about 5.5 feet. 1.7 metres for those who are using a different measuring system. But what really distinguishes them from any other near-human species is markings on their skin. Now, these markings aren't actually natural, they are to designate which clan they're a part of. Now, these tattoos were called Koth, which is in their own language, and usually it would be the tattoo from the female Kiffar's side of the family, unless of course the mother was actually not a member of the Kiffar species. Therefore then the father's tattoos would be used. For example, Quilon Vos's son, Quartu, would have his father's markings as his mother was human. Now, as I stated before, these markings donated which clan you were a part of. Now, for a lot of the Kiffar's history, all the various clans were at war. They were quite a fractured society, and the annexation of their homeworlds actually did more to save their own people than you'd think, as a lot of the various clan feuds kind of died down as there was a much bigger threat in play at the time. Though, to be honest, once they realised they'd probably lost that war, the clan feuds would only then start again. Thankfully, Quilon Vos was taken in by the Jedi and didn't really have to worry about that. Now, moving on to an ability that denotes them from any other near-human species in the galaxy, is they have a very, very powerful ability known as psychometry. Now, what essentially psychometry is, it allows you to read the history of any inanimate objects or formerly inanimate objects, such as the dead. So those of you who are a D&D player, or perhaps even played the Star Wars D20 modern system, are sitting there thinking, inanimate or formerly inanimate objects, that might be a hell of a way to gain intelligence. And it would be. You can read the history of any item that you touch. Now, this won't impart skills. A video I'm planning to do will cover that later on, as it might help with certain explanations for certain characters. Covering that in the video, but it didn't work on the living. So you could gain information of any object you touch. So for example, you could touch a pen and you'd know the history, the various peoples that pen had come in contact with, all the various locations and various things. It would be, to someone untrained in how to handle that, an overwhelming amount of information. So anyone wanting to use that in an RPG system, that would be a hell of a way to get an advantage in any game, and it'd be horrendously beneficial to your knowledge checks. So this naturally meant that the Kiffars would be good at espionage, bounty hunting, or any information-based skill where knowing what you're going into is going to be really helpful. This is why some of them did end up as bounty hunters or even espionage agents. An ability that I also think would have very much aided in Quilon Vosh's own exploits, or even Sintus Vale's own exploits in the various things they got up into the galaxy. Obviously, one was a Jedi Master, the other was a famous bounty hunter who even won the affections of Boba Fett. If you've seen my video on Boba Fett living a normal life, you'll know a little bit about that story. Now, the downside to the psychometry ability is that only about 1 in 100 Kiffar actually were born with this ability. Now, that does mean that, unfortunately, if you are a D&D player who is running a science fiction Star Wars universe, you best be rolling those D100s, and pray the dice gods are ever in your favour. However, to every rule there is an exception, and Quilon Vos was eventually able to, due to various certain studies under Count Dooku, that might give you an idea of where his story might be going when I finally get to it, he was able to start using the ability to read living items, which is a very potentially frightening aspect, because as he reaches out and just touches you on the shoulder, suddenly he knows wherever you've been and what you've done. It's a very frightening prospect. Luckily, Quilon is the only known exception of that ability, and thank the gods for that, because with a lot of them running around with that ability, it'd be truly terrifying in the Star Wars universe. Hell, it wouldn't surprise me if there were more of them around and they all had the ability that Palpatine wouldn't just straight up kill all his Inquisitors and replace them with Kiffar. Something that would make the Imperial Inquisition truly unstoppable, being able to know everything about you just from a touch. Oh, those Jedi wouldn't be able to hide them. Any hopes of ever rebuilding the Jedi Order would probably have ended before Luke was even grown to maturity. Anyway, getting off topic. And one final thing before I bring the episode to a close. The traditional colours of the facial tattoos were usually yellow, red and green. Possibly in the past other variations and other colours did exist, but with the long wars and infighting of the species, they may have actually been wiped out. Now, as always, I will include my sources in the description below. And perhaps if you have liked this, consider getting a conversation going down in the comments, or perhaps leaving a like, or even sharing this video around. And as always, please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you on the next episode of The Lost Archives. Take care, Lore Seekers, and may the Lore Keepers ever be in your favour.